Hello, everybody. Welcome to Resilience+Rise, the podcast where we talk about or we transform adversities into triumphs, illuminate the extraordinary potential within all of us. I'm your host, Thomas Carrier, a resilience coach, an ultra marathoner, and a firm believer in your next most powerful chapter. This podcast is a companion to my upcoming book, Resilience+Rise 26.2 Transformative Miles to Unleash Your Marathon of Life Mindset, coming out early 2025, first quarter. Here we amplify the stories of hope, perseverance, success to inspire your journey. So, when we are talking about inspiration, today on Resilience+Rise, we are joined by a true force of nature, JenLyn. She's a brand innovator. She's an activist. She's the queen of muchness. Yes, you heard it right. Muchness. She believes that your brand or who you are should be multifaceted because you're embracing your muchness rather than narrowing it down. As I've known or Jenlyn, sorry, Jenny L, as she's also known as Jenlyn, she's a creative companion helping visionaries bring their ideas to life. This conversation is about embracing your complexity, transform your vision to a vibrant reality. So, without wasting much time, let's just jump onto the podcast. Welcome, Jenlyn.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited and honored to be able to be here and have such a vibrant conversation about potential and possibilities and what that looks like for each of us.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Jenlyn, you are currently in a specific space, and again it could be you're growing into something else also. Yeah, evolution is a part of uh, us humans, but for you to reach this point, because in resilience what we talk about is that there has to be people have to go through challenges and pains to find a purpose. And during our conversation in the last couple of weeks, we have realized that there is a lot of purpose what you're driving towards. So, how did you come to be the force that you are?
Through resilience itself, embracing resilience, and embracing what feels to be resistance, what feels to be adversarial, um, allows me to become a companion, and work with the forces in my life to bring them all together in this really beautiful integrated force of um, being pulled forward and pushed forward at the same time, but by that purpose. And so in a sense, it's what I like to call an inexhaustible source in that way. Nothing is here to war against us, as it were, um, but it can certainly feel that way. So the secret I've learned really is to embrace what is the message that your companion has brought you, and what are your needs for them to meet, and what needs of theirs is there to meet. Um, so that it's an integrative space of accomplishing something greater than we could accomplish alone or separate.
So, thank you for that, Jenlyn. But here, what you just mentioned, yes, it's looks good on a book if it's written or we just hear it. But if you could take the listeners and myself
Mhm.
through the journey, what changed? Yes, you would have been that particular way life has put you across. You would have been that vibrant personality, etc., and you would have just continued with it. But were there elements when you look back that made you who you are at this point of time?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, some of the things that, of course, I've been through in my life that have gotten me here, include autoimmune diseases, includes being a paramedic firefighter for 15 years, which really allowed me to really learn how to separate uh, and learn really what we think things are and what they actually are, as far as when a force is against you. And that's what I mean, like how to mm, sorry, a little disconnected this morning. Not so
Jenlyn, in
yeah.
case you feel that you're not comfortable to go back to that space, we can move on to something else.
Yeah, it's really trying to pick the one thing that I could tell a whole string of my whole entire life has been a string of learning resilience through violence, surviving violence. Um, I'm a survivor of domestic violence as a child. As an adult, I'm a survivor of being kidnapped and held hostage for 3 days, and attempted murder. Um, those are the depths of some of the things that I have been through that absolutely are of who have what has got me to this place to be the Queen of Muchness, to show up from inside out rather than outside in. And what I mean by that is all of these things have just given me the courage and the ability to 100% be who I am, not despite of, but because of all of those experiences.
Wow, absolutely. Because you just mentioned a very, very important element about life. I mean, the way I heard it, and it's always said, is that life is not happening to me, but for me. And as I've always believed in the concept of resilience, wherein you have grown, you had all the reasons
Mm,
to get into the spotlight, saying about being the victim mentality,
mm,
having the complaining cap put onto you, and you could have gone to an area wherein you could have held on to maybe substance abuse also, just to get yourself a grounding to find
yeah.
out. But you broke that.
Yes.
You forged ahead, knowing that it is possible for you to grow. And as you uh, put in the word about muchness, that
Mm,
we have got a lot of muchness rather than the narrowness. So when we talk about the muchness by itself,
mm,
let's move the pivot a little more to when you started accepting the muchness,
mm, mm,
when you started accepting, as one of the conversations we had in previous time, as what about the magic that you are, the wholeness that you bring not only to yourself but to the people and the community and the universe. What do you say about that?
mm. So the muchness is all of those parts of ourselves that um, make us who we are. So partly it's all of everything that we've been through. It's all of the growth that we've been through. It's the moments that you mentioned substance abuse and victim mentality, and I think those are all kind of part of the journey. I went through I went through looking through at the world and at the world through that victim's lens. I went through substance abuse, and I have allowed my muchness. So a lot of muchness is what everyone else will say, "Ooh, that's too much, right? That's too don't do that. That's gonna hurt. That's scary. Don't do that because it's too much. It's too loud. You're too loud, too vibrant. Be small. Be dim. To conform." And really, when we allow ourselves to go down the paths and the journey of each of those things, what we come out with is what you see before you is that the vibrancy of it all. And we hear terms, like I used to hear all the time, I wore my heart on my sleeve and or my emotions on my sleeve. And that has not changed at all. But I turn it into art. Um, and that's really the true definition of muchness, is taking all of those things and turning it into something that is raw and it's
Mhm.
real and it's vulnerable, and it's strong and it's intense and it's beautiful and it's magnetic and charismatic, so that you can have conversations just like we're having today about the experience of it all, in its totality, rather than um, denying or ignoring any part of the journey.
Wow. So, guys, of course, I will be putting out JenLyn's kind of information and her website in the comments. But also know that she's a brand strategist. She works towards understanding the personality, and based on that, her branding, her thought process comes in. She's also a fashion designer. She also gets into, like you have seen, is that goes absolutely, I don't say wild, but then there is a focused attention to the expanse. What I've seen some of the artwork, and it is absolutely different. So here, Jenlyn, a question which just came out is that when you were talking about having your emotions or your heart on the sleeves, etc., I also realized that when you have got the different tattoos on your body, etc. So I've had people, especially as a coach, I come across people wherein I say is that some of the people they have got mental tattoos. So when I talk about mental tattoos, we go back to the thing is that, yeah, I'm a victim, poor me, look at me. And for them to rub that out from their mental uh, psyche is very, very challenging because they have identified themselves as that's who they are.
Mhm, mhm,
So I believe, again, maybe we are going back to the previous question is that you had elements which could have made your own mental tattoos,
mm,
and you could have been, because we are always, I mean, most of the time we know is that a lot of us, we refuse to break our comfort zone even though it is
mm,
painful, it's hurting, but
mm.
because it is the known devil, we prefer sitting down over there. So what do you say about that?
Um, w- One thing I came to I had an epiphany moment. Um, and I like to talk about it in this way. When
Sure.
we're going through life and when we're going through different areas and when we know we're being called to grow, for me, in my own experience, in life, right? We're not, when I write, when I um do makeup, or when I'm drawing, I can fix, quote unquote, a mistake in many different ways. I can use my eraser to erase it. I can use a wet wipe to take it off, to start over. I can do um, those things, and or I can lean into what was a mistake to my mind, what seemed like a mistake, and realize that it doesn't have to be a mistake. I really leaned into that, and being able to, instead of starting something over because I thought it was a mistake because it was happening in a way that I didn't think it was supposed to, really just leaning into, well, what happens, what if I keep going, what can I do to make this still come out into something that's different? How can I stay into the thick of it, as it were, and still continue to move, even though I think something is a mistake, and then be able, when you step back, to see that full picture and realize that it wasn't. That's art. And art, life can be art, in the sense that when we're called to these spaces so many times, it's not a line or a word that we're being asked to erase, or that we're being asked to bend around. It's people. It's the
Mhm.
people that are with us. It's the people that are on the journey with us that we're being asked to move around, leave behind, move forward while they continue to stand still. Right? There's this dance that happens. And for me, I really came to this recognition that we've all come to the same place at the same time. We're all being called to move forward or to grow. And it's not our responsibility to not grow, or to make ourselves smaller, or to pivot around someone else. Our one job, really, truly, at the end of the day, is ourselves. It is being true to what we are being called to do, moving forward, backwards. And we're not alone. We're never alone. So even if you're being asked to move forward without someone, there is still someone for them that's also choosing to stay behind, as it were.
Mhm.
Um, that we can move forward, even though life is much more challenging, in the sense of moving those pieces. But every time you're asked to move forward and grow, if you will do it, if you can take in a deep breath, if you can accept the space, if you can accept the challenge, if you can adapt, if you can pivot, if and lean into it, and let the pieces fall where they will, other people move into your life, right? So it is always an ebb and flow of people coming into your life, people moving out of your life. um I think one of the most painful things that we believe is that our relationships are meant to be forever,
Mhm.
and that they're not supposed to be that ebb and flow. And I said that very specifically in resilience, because we don't do this alone. It is with the community, and it is with a tribe of people that we move through life. Um, and we're not always growing at the same rates. And it's something very important to be able to do, is move those uh, bits and pieces around humanity. Um, I hope that came through as clearer than what I think that I
Act-
articulated it.
Actually, I would come exactly to the next particular question, is that what you have mentioned, yeah, a lot of people, it would be understandable, but there could be still a lot of us, the humanity, as you call it, as for them to understand what does it mean by leaning in,
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean by uh, or being ready to taking on the challenge, or taking on the concept that I do not want to be stuck over here, I want to grow.
Yeah.
So if the experience is what has taught you, if you could give, I don't ask, I avoid asking or putting in the word advice. I would say if there are some suggestions for people to create a breakthrough
Yes.
towards the muchness of their life, if I you could just have two or
Yeah.
three.
So one for to lean into the muchness is all of the things that you've ever been told that were too much, right? What was it? Was it you're too emotional? Was it that you're not emotional enough? Those things will end up being your superpower. Leaning in means leaning into the discomfort. So when you want to run, it means standing still and or even rushing into it feet first, like when you go to a swimming pool or a lake at that first time for the season, and it's going to be cold, but if you just take in a deep breath and just burst out and you run off the end of that dock and you jump into that water and you come up, and maybe it takes your breath even for a moment, but then you exhale and you begin to move your body, and it begins to warm, and it begins to be a pleasurable experience. You're expanding in water when you do that. And it's the same with something that we see that feels like it's terrifying or scary. And the other thing is literally stop doing everything that you've always done. Do the exact opposite. You do the exact opposite to it's almost like when you have to shock your system into a different loop, right? Because we have these synapses and this loop that keeps continuing in our brain and our body. It's a pattern, and we've been in it for a very, very, very long time. So you have to do something that breaks that. So the cold water is a great metaphor, because it has to be something that's shocking to you. It has to be completely shocking to your system. So whatever that is on the other side of that fear, and just that deep breath, that letting it all just be what it is, but continue to move forward. I always say you have to move your mass. This body has to move forward. You have to make decisions. You have to make pivots. You have to make turns. Sometimes at first, the most empowering thing that you can actually do is let go of all control and don't question anything. Just simply dive in. Just go. Just move. To that thing that terrifies you the most.
Wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So that's a huge learning. But just being mindful of the time. There's one question which has been is that you are such an amazing and a vibrant personality, that which I believe a lot of listeners, if they've come on to here, they would realize that. So if you could just tell us what are the key projects or the projects that are close to your heart, which is redefining who you are and growing to where you're supposed to be. Not only, as you mentioned, you're not just standing still, you're moving ahead. But in this process, again, talking to you, I've realized that you would love to take people along with you
Yes.
to the next. And we come back to the word of being a companion.
Hmm.
So you've got some projects that you've been working on that you would want the listeners to know about.
Yeah, I'm working on a beautiful, fun project that of course, multi-nuanced, and that's bringing your brand, your personality, and the art and the beauty that is all of those things to the forefront in a really fun way, kind of like a little cinematic movie. So it's a journey
Okay.
with the person that I'm working with, and then it's the making of this little 5-minute movie, and then it's displaying that and releasing that out into the world through a really fun event that's like a virtual runway. So that's very dear to my heart, and always very near and dear to my heart is that we understand who we are as humans, and that we understand what our human rights are, and that I am a movement, and I want people to be moving with me to understand that we're empowered, so something really important to me right now is just simply educating, and being in that activist role through my art, which is something that right now is very political. That's what it looks like, because that's what it is. And so it's those statement art, and also being able to be that muse and be that vessel for others to come to me and explain to me, this is what my fears are, or my this is what I'm experiencing in this space, and really be able to bring that through an art work, because working through that process helps us to understand it, and it helps us be able to embrace it, and to understand how we can move forward with and as a resilient movement, and rather than being froze in fear or uncertainty.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So all this particular information, what we just mentioned, it is there in your website
Mhm.
about what you're working. Fantastic. That's wonderful. So guys, as we are coming towards the end of our conversation, what we have seen is that JenLyn, a multifaceted, a creative companion, she loves to work on who you are as making yourself as a brand. I would, if this conversation has resonated with you, please connect with her, reach out with her. She, as you have seen, she's a super nice person. She really loves humans the way it is supposed to be. It's this something which is beautiful and profound. So, guys, also do reach out. And when we talk about resilience, we have just seen a beautiful example wherein a person had all the reasons to go in for a victim mentality, or going in for poor me, or just being lost in that darkness. But she chose to move ahead. So, with the same mindset, let's do, as she mentioned, move ahead, face your fears, jump into the unknown, and know that life will be there to take you ahead.
Yes.
So, with this, Jenlyn, I would like to conclude today's session. Thank you so very much for your space and time. You take care.
Thank you so much.